afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Inside City Hall. Today, we're with representatives of the Special Olympics and the law enforcement's branch of support for Special Olympics with the Torch Run. This year, we have some of our guests, and let me introduce them, or let them introduce themselves. We have with us
Mr. Mayor, I'm Neil Johnson, President and CEO of Special Olympics New York.
And
Joseph Barker, I'm a Yonkers Police Captain.
And I'm Caitlin Brennan. I'm the Associate Director of Development. I handle the Westchester County region.
so, Captain, why don't you tell us the Torch Run and how it started and what it means to the Peekskill residents?
The Torch Run itself started in 1981 in Wichita, Kansas. The town was getting ready for their summer games, which were going to be held at the local high school, and a couple of the officers and the chief of Wichita, Kansas, Chief Richard Lemunion, got together and said, why don't we take the torch, we'll run it from City Hall down to the game in a similar fashion as they do for the International Olympics. They did it. It was a tremendous success at the stadium. The athletes went wild when the we call it the Flame of Hope, came into the stadium, and it's been going ever since. It's been in New York State now since 1986.
And is this going to be the first year that you're doing the Torch Run here in New York, or?
No, I've been doing the Torch Run in New York since 1986. Our leg of the run starts in Yonkers, comes through the county, and we finish up here in Peekskill every year.
Nice. And this year, what date is that going to be on?
The date actually hasn't been set, but it'll be in May.
Okay, so we're getting a real head start on this by telling people to start preparing to get ready for
Yes.
May. Well, we have to go through a tremendous winter first, though. Sir, why don't you tell us what this means to Special Olympics and why it's so important?
Well, the Torch Run and the Guardians of the Flame, as these men and women of law enforcement are referred to, not just with what they do for all of us by going to work every day. There's a special affinity for Special Olympics athletes, and the athletes have that same love for the officers. But more than that, internationally, the Special Olympics Law Enforcement Torch Run last year, in 2013, raised over $50 million in each and every state, in each and every province of Canada, and in international programs that benefit the athletes in their home communities. They do it through all sorts of different initiatives, not just the physically running the torch, which Captain Barker spoke about, but also by doing various fundraising events, one of which is going to be happening down in Glen Island Park in New Rochelle next month, which is one of our better and more fun events, a Polar Plunge, which is something we invite people to join us in, where people will help raise money, pledges. They will challenge friends and foes and relatives and mayors to
I'll cut the ribbon, all right?
to come jump in frozen bodies of water. It's a great event. You know, if you don't want to do it this next month and this fall, you can always come up to Lake Ontario in February, where it's or Peekskill in February.
Peekskill in
we have
February
another
also.
one. So
We'll pass. I
We'll
think we did
pass,
one
okay.
on January 1st, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's associated with Special
Yeah,
Olympics.
but all through all these different various crazy fundraising events, the law enforcement people helped us here in New York, raised over in excess of $1.5 million to benefit our programs.
We, so when is the plunge going to be? Next month?
Caitlin, you got the date?
Yep, so it's Saturday, November 15th.
In
Right.
Peekskill?
Nope, this one is in Glen Island Park in New
Glen Island,
Rochelle.
yeah.
Yep, but
I might do that one, but
Yes.
the January one is a little chilly.
Well, that's why we moved it up a month. Last year it was in December, and it ended up being a complete whiteout, and people still showed up. Over 100 people, right?
Yes.
Yep. And this year we're aiming for 50 degrees, and hopefully it's going to be hundreds of people come, and we're able to raise thousands of dollars.
But the
So
water
that's our
temperature is still cold.
Yeah.
So,
You're still freezing for a reason.
So Caitlin, how long have you been associated with Special Olympics?
So my first involvement started when I went to Niagara University up in Niagara Falls. I was a Special Olympic coach there for one of my classes, and that was in 2011. So I graduated after I got my MBA. I came down to the city, and I entered advertising sales, and then I realized that my heart just wasn't there. You know, I wasn't bleeding for it. I took a step back and I realized that I loved Special Olympics. Like, I could never find the joy and the passion I had for our athletes, let alone for my job. So in February, it happened that there was a job opportunity opened up, and I did everything it took to get it, and now I have my dream job. So I feel extremely lucky to do that.
That's great. Most of us get involved in Special Olympics because we have a family member or a
Right.
close friend
Yeah.
with special needs. My brother-in-law has Downs.
Oh, really?
And I know that Special Olympics, he was a great swimmer, and he, to this day, still has those medals in his room. And he's 56 years old.
That's amazing.
And it's something that he always talks about is swimming,
And I'm sure he does that proudly.
very proudly, as his father does. But anyway, so tell me, how does a police captain get involved in something like this?
Well, here again, like I say, when the thought of doing the torch run in 1986 came to New York State, I was still a police officer. It started with the state police, they contacted the county police, and eventually it came down to the local police with the idea of running the torch for Special Olympics. Prior to that, I really had no involvement with Special Olympics, but I was a runner. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And got involved that first year, met the athletes, and once you meet an athlete, you can't let go.
Right.
What communities will this trail or the path take?
Like I said, it starts in Yonkers. We go into Mount Vernon, then Tuckahoe, Eastchester, into White Plains, through Greenburgh to Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, Ossining, Briarcliff, Croton, Cortland.
Right up the
and
river.
Right up the river, right into Peekskill.
Beautiful.
And it's also part of almost 20 legs all across the state. And all of them will accumulate in the State Special Olympic Summer Games next year, which will be held in Brockport.
So I was going to ask you, what does Special Olympics do with the money that we raise in this event?
That's a very good question. Many people don't realize that we never charge our athletes or their caregivers for any of the programs we provide. So fundraising is critical for all that we do. We currently serve over 65,000 athletes across the state, and we've got a tremendous program right here in the Hudson Valley region. But because we don't have any way to charge, or we don't charge, we've got to generate over $8 million a year. So fundraising is critical. Initiatives like the Torch Run, which raised, as I said, $1.5 million, is incredibly important for us in order to do the things that we do for our athletes.
Do you find that with tighter budgets now, federal and state governments are cutting back on their contributions?
Yes, all not-for-profits are feeling the squeeze, much as for-profit corporations and all of us individually. So we have to be a little bit creative. You know, that's why we have things like the Polar Plunges and various creative ways to get people to come support us and get to meet our athletes. As Captain Barker said, you know, we have a secret weapon. You meet and get involved with one of our athletes. It's up to us then to make sure you stay involved.
Certainly. Well, we can certainly attest to that. Captain Barker, I'm assuming police officers from all over the county are active in this.
Yes,
Right?
as we go through these different towns and villages, it's the officers from those individual towns and villages that take the torch in a relay fashion, runs it through their town and hands it off to the next town. It's not the same officers running that entire leg.
Right. So that must be a tremendous boost for morale and
It is.
camaraderie for the men.
Yes, it is. It's an event that officers look forward to every year.
So are you actually going to run a leg of this?
I do it every year, run a leg of it or two
Well,
or three.
You started off.
I spend the day with the torch. I start in Yonkers. When we're through with the Yonkers part of the run, I'll jump in one of the vans and help with support, you know, handing out water and items like that, first aid if it's needed. And if the amount of runners are a little bit on the light side, I've been known to jump out of the truck and give a hand.
Well, that's great, and Peekskill will certainly be a very humble host to this event next year. As soon as we set the date, please contact our chief, Johansson, and he'll make the appropriate arrangements, and of course the council will shut down whatever roads and avenues we need. And we want to get the publicity out to our residents so we can take the chance to get as many residents involved in this as possible to come out and support this very worthy cause. Will there be private citizens running any of these legs?
Sometimes there's families and friends, but one of the things that we do mandate is that there's an officer up front with the torch. As Neil said, we're the guardians of the flame.
Gotcha.
There are some legs that, quite honestly, try to engage some of the local school children to be involved and to participate, to come out and cheer. And there are some that really have, some of these teachers say, well, come on, let's go for a block or so with the torch.
How many families are you, your district is more than just Westchester, correct?
Yeah, my organization covers the entire state of New York.
State. So how many families are we serving in this area, say Westchester, or in statewide?
Well, in the state, there are 65,000+. We're the 6th largest program in the world and the largest in North America. In the Hudson Valley region, which is our local segment, we have probably about 7,000 or 8,000, which is over the entire spectrum from below Green and Columbia Green down through right to the city line. So it's a big, very big population.
I know that in my lifetime, I'm 57, the concept of group homes and mainstreaming has been initially very controversial, but it seems like, my brother-in-law is in a home in New Rochelle, right in a very fairly exclusive area, and they are good neighbors, and there don't seem to be any problems. Were you around back then when that concept started?
Yeah, I first became involved 40 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm only 29, but I have seen that whole range and spectrum of how people with intellectual disabilities are both viewed and engaged with, and I think one of the things that Special Olympics does, not just we're a great sports organization, we're about changing attitudes. We're about letting people know that we are all more alike than we are different. And Special Olympics helps to illustrate that more than people realize, whether it's subliminally or they get the aha moment when they see it. And one of the things that we've just started now, Mr. Mayor, here in New York, is we have now introduced a program called Unified Sports, where people with and without disabilities will train and compete together. And we have an agreement with the New York State Public High Schools Athletic Association, where we are going to eventually introduce unified sports in every high school in the state of New York. And it is really, really changing people's minds and attitude. Where before it was like people, there's Johnny, well, he's in special needs. And now it's Johnny, come sit with us in the lunchroom.
So the housing situation, are you always looking for new homes, or are you meeting the needs right now, or do you have a long waiting list? Because I know my brother-in-law, this had to go back, I'd say, almost 30 years now. He was on a waiting list for quite some time.
Yeah, the housing and vocational training are not our purview, but in all, housing, the opportunity for independent living in New York is better than it is probably in most states, and it is improving.
That's a credit to your organization for getting out there and educating the public, and for neighbors to be good neighbors and to be willing to listen, because they don't have any negative impact at all that I'm aware of. Caitlin, what is the most satisfying part of your job?
I would say when I get to actually interact with our athletes. I'm part of the development side, so I'm planning all the fundraising events. So when I get to go to any of our statewide competitions or even our regional competitions, just interacting, seeing how proud they are, how brave. And it was kind of cool because I was talking to one of our athletes the other day, and Anthony was telling me that he used to play basketball back in high school on a regular league. And he kept getting really discouraged. He was like, I wasn't fast enough. I couldn't catch the ball quick enough. And for that reason, he was sitting on the bench. But then finally, he was introduced to our Special Olympic program. And when he was part of that, he was like, I could exceed. I was the best on the team. I felt like I was a team captain. I then became a leader, and I encouraged other people, like, just keep trying, just keep practicing, you'll get there. And from the, just being involved with the Special Olympics, he was able to actually feel like he was part of something and an equal player in the field. So what's kind of cool, that goes hand in hand with the fact that when our athletes are involved with our Special Olympics programs and the sports, they also are 5 times more likely to hold jobs because it teaches them commitment. It teaches them they have to arrive on time. They have people depend on them. And from that, it's not just we're truly, strictly sports oriented, but we're overall just trying to improve the lives of people with intellectual disabilities.
Captain, if there's some police officers out there that want to become more active and not wait until next year to get these advances, where can they contact you and become a part of this?
Well, they can contact me through the Yonkers Police Department because I'm still an active patrol officer. Or they can contact the local Special Olympics office for help. Another thing I was going to just tag on to what Caitlin was just saying, I go to the police academy a couple of times a year to speak to the rookie police officers that are being educated. And when I talk to them, we don't talk about the disability of the athletes. We talk about their abilities and then how we just cone them in a little tighter and make them more useful members of society.
Do you want to leave your a number or your email so people can reach out to you?
My email is the initial D, Barker, B-A-R-C-A, 4363 at AOL.com.
And how can people get in touch with your organization? What's the best way and who's the contact person?
The best thing people do for more information is go to our website, www.specialolympicsnewyork.org. And they can find out anything that's going on across the state. And if they zero in or click on the Hudson Valley region, there's a full calendar of events, both programmatic and fundraising and informational materials and places to contact our staff here in the Hudson Valley region.
Well, I certainly would encourage our citizens to be present and to contact this fine organization, especially this time of year when we're thinking about end of year. And where your donations might want to go for end of year, for tax deductions. It's something to keep in mind and not wait until the last week in December to do it. This is a very worthwhile organization, and I would encourage you to make whatever donations you can. I've been presented with this shirt, so when I take part in this, I'll have this next May. This is a shirt, and I guess the runners will get this or have a chance.
Yes, there'll be a shirt just like that.
And I think I need a little bigger one for me, but I thank you very much for the shirt, and you have some sponsors on the back, and this is just a tremendous organization, very worthwhile organization, and as you can see, law enforcement, as they always do, step up to the plate to help our communities, help our citizens, and keep us safe. And we give them the tools they need to do their job, and this is their way of giving back to the communities and to those in need. So I want to thank you all for coming here to Peekskill today.
Our pleasure.
And I really appreciate it, and I know the citizens of Peekskill are happy to have programs like this where they don't have to sit around and look at another ribbon cutting or a business opening, but a worthwhile organization that has chosen to include Peekskill in their county-wide events, and we appreciate that, and it's going to be a tremendous spring next year. We have a lot going on in the city, as you know. For those of you that watch our council meetings, we have new businesses opening up almost on a weekly basis. We have a lot coming in on the drawing board that I would invite you to pay attention to, and as I promised you, we're going to get things moving in Peekskill, and we have been over the past 9 months, and right now I'm just really excited to look forward to next year and next spring, especially because things that are on the drawing board now will be cutting ribbons and welcoming those businesses and new residents into Peekskill next year. As always, Frank Catalina, I'm very honored to be your mayor and to take this time and to be with you today. And if anybody has any questions about any of this, please contact these gentlemen, or you can always contact me, and we'll put you in touch with the necessary parties. So, With that, I want to thank you all for coming here today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And
Appreciate it.
good luck to you, and God
Yes.
bless you all, and God bless the city of Peekskill.